I'm Jeremy Fleming from EurActiv, and I'm joined today by Tonio Borg, the Commissioner for Health and Consumer Affairs. Commissioner Borg, thanks for agreeing to have a few words with us about your portfolio. You joined as Commissioner 3 months ago now, and you took over in circumstances which were difficult for your predecessor, also Maltese, John Daly. How difficult has it been for you to adjust to being a commissioner when the media has clearly been taking such a strong interest in some of the issues surrounding the departure of your predecessor?
Yes, of course, that is a close chapter in the sense that I was appointed by the Council following a hearing in the European Commission, and I have a job to do. This is how I view things in this respect. My main aim was to launch as soon as possible the adoption of the Tobacco Directive, which had been in the news for some time, apart from requests which had been made by the European Parliament to revise this Tobacco Directive. I had promised in the hearing to deliver that by the end of January, and we adopted it actually on the 19th of December, thanks also to the help and assistance of the President of the Commission. So I made it clear in my hearing that in spite of the circumstances in which I had been appointed, the Tobacco Directive was alive and kicking, it was not dead, and that the aim of the Commission in adopting it on the 19th of December, as it actually did, was to try and do the very best to get the approval by the co-legislators of this directive during the current parliamentary mandate. I'm saying this because, as you know, even after the approval, then there would be a transitional period, so that will take us 3.5 years from now. And I think this has been long overdue. We have taken action. Now it is up to the Parliament and to the Council, after an interesting debate which has already started, to approve this directive for the benefit of consumers and of citizens. Every year, about 700,000 people die in the European Union alone owing to smoke-related diseases, and I think that is a scandal in its own right, and we should try and remedy part of it. In fact, our aim is to reduce the number of smokers in the European Union by 2% over a period of 5 years.
And your debate, you said, has already started in the Parliament on this. How strong are you expecting resistance in the Parliament to be?
Oh, there has to be some kind of resistance. In fact, I have jokingly told the Environment Committee that this proposal has been criticised both by those who thought that we have gone too far, this nano-state argument, and by those who feel that we could have done better, which means that we are in the middle of the road, which is a good place to be in such matters, because it means that this directive is a reasonable proposal, it's a balanced proposal. We are not prohibiting smoking, we are leaving personal choice to individuals, but it is important to inform the general public and young persons in particular of the dangers of smoking. If you look at the statistics, 93% of all those who start smoking do so below the age of 25. 70% when they have not actually reached the age of majority, that is to say below the age of 18. So here we are dealing with a majority who are minors who start smoking at a young age. So let's make tobacco less attractive in its format, in its presentation, and also in its taste, which is the main thrust of the directive. Shall we experience a bumpy ride? I think that there will be some objections, particularly from those countries where tobacco production is important. There will be also the economic argument that job will be lost because we are going to reduce the number of smokers. Of course, the argument against this, what should we do? Promote smoking in order to increase the number of jobs in the tobacco industry? Of course, there will be jobs created also because of savings which people will make by quitting smoking.
Do you have anything that you might be prepared to give way on in the directive?
Well, there are certain things which would arise, or to clarify rather than amending, to clarify certain things to allay fears. I mentioned one of them already, the additives. There's this idea that there can't be any additives. It's the characterizing flavors. Who will decide what is a characterizing flavor? It would be independent experts set up in the member states but supervised by the Commission. So there one can find certain compromises, provided the two main elements of the directive remain there, which is that tobacco should look like tobacco and should taste like tobacco as well.
Right. You've been, as I say, in the job 3 months, and along has come this huge scandal, the horsemeat issue. Has the media overreacted to this?
No, the media is doing its job. I think it is right that it conveys this message that somewhere down the line has been in violation of European laws by defrauding consumers for economic gain.
It also brought the labelling issue back on the agenda, which was already under review by your department.
Which is the country of origin.
Country of origin.
But that is completely separate from this issue, that is to say, to explain also to those who are listening to us and watching us. There is a movement within the European Union member states whether one should also amend the labelling legislation so that in each and every meat product, whether processed or not, there should be a labelling not only on what kind of meat you are eating, but on the place of origin. Now, today, that only applies to fresh beef.
Along with some other products as well.
So some other products, fresh, which will be extended soon as well. The idea is, should processed meat products, besides having the animal ingredients labelling, also have a labelling on place of origin? Now, this is completely unrelated to the current incident, because even if we had the place of origin, this incident would have happened just the same. But because this incident was a false labelling of animal ingredient.
But would you agree with the assessment that if you had origin labelling on all types of meat, then that could potentially deter a fraudster? I mean, it acts as one more hurdle through which a fraudster has to jump.
But not necessarily, because one could be truthful on the animal origin, but just the same change the labelling on the animal ingredients. But the European Commission had already been committed much before this incident arose to have an impact assessment, because this would certainly increase costs. One has to see the effects on the internal market, etc. And then there are issues which one has to discuss. What would be the place of origin when the animal was born, where the animal was slaughtered, etc. By the end of this year, we are trying to get this report as soon as possible, and then it's up to the member states to decide whether to approve any proposals which we would put forward. I can say that there's a growing number of member states, not necessarily everyone, who are in favor of improving this labelling legislation. But this incident did not occur because there isn't the animal labelling place of origin legislation. This incident occurred because the legislation was there and someone actually succeeded in being in breach of that legislation and trying to defraud the consumers.
I mean, that won't stop some MEPs from applying more pressure on the labelling issue as a result of the horsemeat scandal. And is it something that you are expecting that you might have to deliver a tougher policy line on as a result?
No, I think that there are two arguments of what we should do next. One, it is this place of origin, which I repeat, is completely unrelated to this incident, but of course there are those who are grasping this opportunity to improve what we already have, irrespective of the horse meat scandal. Secondly, there is the question of, are the criminal penalties which are being applied by the member states sufficient, or are they enough of a deterrent to those who want to be in breach of the law? As you know, when we have a directive, the directive does not in detail oblige member states to have a particular criminal penalty, except that the criminal penalty has to be dissuasive and appropriate. And it is important not only that the directive is implemented in this way, but then that it is enforced. That is to say, when someone is caught in this kind of scandal, he receives the punishment which would be dissuasive, that he does not commit this again. Because the beauty of the internal market is there. It's something which is the cornerstone of the European Union. But when someone then violates the EU law, as in this case, the rippling effect goes all throughout the internal market of 500 million consumers. So it's not just affecting the country where the violation takes place, but as we saw in the beef lasagna, it affects other countries as well. So the criminal penalty has to be really dissuasive, because the infringement is more serious because you're affecting an entire single market.
Commissioner Borg, thank you very much.